And unmuted.
You should probably unmute yourself, man.
The old abrupt ending, muted mic. I love it.
Also, we got to really properly label our actual intros in Google Drive. I had that labeled as Squad Intro 2022. That was not.
That wasn't it?
Just disappointing. That was the one thing didn't test before the program. So,
well,
we'll tighten it up next week.
We're still live on the air, Max. We're still good. We're talking to our squad fam. We got the people in here. Carlos Legenis checking in. John O'Flynn checking in from Vancouver, West Vancouver specifically. We got Katie Fleury, our girl, checking in, saying good evening, everyone. Peter's checking in, saying Clark. That's Peter. Pete the Heat. That's who that is. I've never seen Peter's full name before, to be honest. I've only ever seen him as @Pete the Heat on TikTok. So that's a funny story. Matt Jaws is checking in, our good buddy. We got Elias checking in. We got Donna checking in. We got all sorts of our friends checking in. Make sure you guys are hitting that like button on Facebook, that like button on YouTube, like button on TikTok, share all the things. Hit all the things, and we'll be a happy couple of people. Max, I don't want to bury the lead because you're dressed to the nines in the gear. I want to let you have your time to shine because, Max, the biggest news in sports is the Super Bowl. And we'll get to that in just a second as we get into the top of the order tonight, because we're getting into our biggest topics of the night, brought to you by our good friends at RBI Baseball. Are you looking for a way to improve your baseball skills on and off the diamond? Are your kids in need of some training, skill building, private coaching? Check out RBI Baseball and Softball Training Center today. It's the best baseball training facility in Saskatchewan. I will promise you this. So check out their Facebook, their website, and their Instagram today to figure out how you can get to work at RBI. They rise above the rest. How about that for a sponsor read? I nailed that one.
First time for everything, my friend. First time for everything.
Yeah, that was a solid one.
Did you get the softball in there?
I threw softball in there. I did.
Good work. Good work.
So, Max, Elias mentioned it. Hey, Maxie, we happy LA is going to the Super Bowl? I'm sorry, but I'm cheering for the Bengals. Well, there you go, Max. But your boys, the biggest news story of the weekend, before the week started, because somebody tried to hijack the news cycle. But before the week got started, the weekend happened, and your LA Rams, I almost said St. Louis again, have defeated the 49ers to go to the Super Bowl, Max. Matt Stafford, one of my favorite stories, first year in LA, takes him to the big time show. I told you after the game they should just bring Calvin Johnson out of retirement just for fun. But Max,
don't need him.
Max,
got a guy named Cooper Kupp.
Absolutely.
Got a guy named Odell Beckham Jr.
Got
a guy who's not even playing named Bobby Robert Woods Trees. This team, man, I tell you, no, I understand the hype around Joe Burrow. I like Joe Burrow. Everybody's hopping on the Burrow and the Bengal bandwagon, and that's completely fine. That's exactly how the LA Rams want it, man. But geez, did that feel good. Sweet vengeance against Kyle Shanahan and the San Francisco 49ers. The narrative going in, the Rams lost 6 straight against Kyle Shanahan and the Niners in regular season. I would say an NFC championship victory overtakes all 6 of those regular season victories, though. I'll happily trade that again. If the Niners want to win the next 6 in the regular season, but we oust them in the NFC championship, fine by me. But yeah, man, it was a game full of twists and turns. But I was telling a couple of buddies, I said, you know what? I felt more nervous. And again, this will be a good segue when we talk about it in a little bit with amongst ourselves and with Zig Fracassi from SiriusXM radio. But I was a little more nervous with Tom Brady on the field being only up by, well, not only up, we were up 27-3 or whatever it was. More nervous with Tom Brady on the field being up a couple of touchdowns than I was more nervous at any point during the Niners game. It just felt like a game the Rams were going to win right from the get-go. I said to everybody, I said, you know what? I just got a feeling. I don't know if it's going to be a blowout. I don't know if it's going to be what a lot of people expect it to be. But either way, I just figured the Rams were going to find a way. And man, oh man, was I happy that they did. Whoo! Jaquiski Tart, do.
Oh my God. I was going to say that to you. Did I send you that? I think I did.
I think I said that like immediately after he dropped the ball.
I'm sure you did because of your obsession with
shart his pants is what he did on that play. My goodness, that was a tough one. And you know what? Ultimately, you love to see how he responded. I mean, that's super tough to see that that a guy's going to go through that. Anyways, obviously San Francisco 49ers faithful are not very happy with Mr. Tart today. But with that being said, it's, hey, somebody's got to be the hero and somebody's got to be the GOAT. And as we maybe transition topics to the GOAT, man, oh man, was I happy that Matt Stafford and the Rams were able to find a way. And I tell you what, for everybody that said Matt Stafford might not be worth the picks, Matt Stafford he's never won a playoff game. He's never done this, never done that. Well, guess what? He's doing it in his first season in LA, and I think it's only going to get better as time goes on. As Kobe Bryant said, job ain't finished yet, but in this first year with the LA Rams, this is exactly what they were, I don't want to say expecting, but certainly hopeful of in this first year of the Matt Stafford era. Jared Goff, who is what it is, man.
I'll tell you what, though, Max. With you said that you're not sure if that was necessarily what they were expecting. I don't know if that's the case. The moves that they made throughout the year to add a guy like Von Miller.
I'm just saying at the time they added Stafford, they had to do some building around the other pieces, obviously. But no,
but either way, I think the goal, was maybe not Super Bowl or bust, but Super Bowl was the goal, and
they were certainly hoping for it in their home stadium, absolutely. But yeah, no, he surpassed all my expectations and then some. It's just been awesome to see him go out, and again, just the narrative surrounding him, right? It's he hasn't had any postseason success, as I believe it was Dan Orlovsky said it best, is he played in Detroit. that's all you need to know right there. So without Calvin Johnson, that was a tough regime. But
you know who else didn't have any postseason success and was labeled as a guy who could never do it?
Anybody on the Toronto Maple Leafs ever?
Well, yeah. This is a super deep hockey take, but Corey Crawford was a guy, and it always bugged me because he was a good goalie, and I could tell he was getting there. They were getting there as a team. And then he goes out and wins, and all of a sudden everyone thinks he's a great goalie because he won a Stanley Cup. I mean, until you do it, everyone's going to label you as a guy who can't do it.
Well, Matt Murray won too, and look at how things are going now. He's, let's be nice to Matt Murray. He's hopefully finding a rejuvenated stride as of late, but it was not looking good for a minute there in Ottawa.
Speaking of a guy who can do it in the postseason, Max, Tom Brady retires officially, unofficially, and then officially again. So he comes out today and gives everybody the speech they were kind of hoping for.
Not everybody.
Well, yeah, we'll get to that a little bit later. But the biggest story was, he didn't thank the Patriots. He didn't thank the Patriots fans. And then he comes out a couple hours later and he put out a thing. Robert Kraft put out a statement and he retweeted that. And Max, you said there's going to be a ceremony potentially coming up here for him. Did you say something about that for the Patriots?
I saw a couple of tweets from some sources that you could say are probably close to the team. And sure. I would say that I'm sure the main man that we have on deck to join us will probably have some more insights about that as well. But I mean, ultimately, it's funny. It kind of speaks to society, right? No patience whatsoever. The fact of the matter is just, you know what? You couldn't even let the guy have a day, a day to enjoy his own accomplishment, to really, since Schefter and I forget the other gentleman that kind of stole it from him on Saturday afternoon, since they kind of robbed him of him coming out with the way that he wanted to say it and articulate it to folks. That was unfortunate, but regardless, you know what? Patriots fans, just settle down. The man gave you 6 titles. The man's going to give you what you want. Again, just give him a minute, for goodness sakes. Jeez. Yeah. Anyways,
did you see the undisputed GOAT? Did you see the conspiracy theory that the documentary series out that's The Man in the Arena?
Yep.
So apparently the last episode hasn't come out yet officially, and the last episode apparently is the conspiracy is they were going to release it this week, and it was going to be his retirement announcement.
Yeah. That sounds about right.
It was going to be in the episode, and then they broke it, so they pushed the episode or something like that. So I don't know. I kind of like that conspiracy theory. It kind of throws a wrench into
theatrics, man. Dude, Tom Brady does social media better than most athletes do around the world, and obviously too with the team that he's got around him, the way that they could release that. Either way, it's going to draw millions and millions of eyeballs. Look at what the man accomplished in a 22-year NFL career. I don't think, personally, I mean, it might be a little too early, especially with this guy named Joey Burrow around the block. Geez, he seems to have a little bit of that Tom Brady, I don't know how I'm going to win, but I'm going to find a way to win mentality about him. I don't want to say we'll never see it again, but in all likelihood, not in our lifetime will we see a guy win 7 Super Bowls, especially with the way that the Kansas City Chiefs have been approaching AFC championships the last few years. My goodness. Yeah. Yikes.
This is interesting. This could be some breaking news from Carlos Legena coming in here. Also, it looks like Washington's new team name is all but official, the Commanders. Now, is this true, Carlos? Are you hoodwinking us here? Or is this actually legit? I haven't seen this on Twitter, but apparently, I wouldn't doubt Carlos. But this is.
I saw something a few weeks ago that they were teasing that they were going to be doing a reveal at the beginning of February. So yeah, it certainly wouldn't surprise me.
I see Lippy, my boy Lippy, over on TikTok says, yeah, that's true. So the Commanders, okay, all right, I could get behind the Commanders. I don't know. We'll have to see what their branding is like. Either way, we should get back on topic. I had a question over here, and I was going to touch on it really quick. Eric Stahl, named the captain of the Canadian men's Olympic team. It was kind of a no-brainer. I mean, I don't think there was a whole lot of other guys on there with anywhere near the experience that Eric Stahl has. Max, the one question that I got over the weekend actually was, do you think this springboards Eric Stahl for an NHL contract afterwards? And I thought, you know what? He's just coming off a Stanley Cup run. Probably doesn't hurt the guy at the age of 37 to maybe take a few months off. Comes back a little refreshed going into the second half of the season. The stretch run even, because by the time the Olympics are over, it'll be the stretch run. There's a few guys on this team that I think might get NHL shots, and even on other teams throughout the Olympics as well. But Eric Stahl, you have to think this could be maybe his audition for another kick at the can.
Yeah, it's a good opportunity to prove it. I mean, obviously the Olympics aren't going to boast the caliber that we certainly have come to expect, but without NHLers. But I don't know, man. We'll see. Like I said, it'll be an interesting showcase to see if the guys still got it. At 37 years old, to be quite honest, I'm surprised he didn't have a job somewhere for the $750K league minimum. He seems like a guy that could still contribute in some aspects. Obviously, the leadership component. With that being said, he can also still put the puck in the net the odd time or two. It's going to be good to have some name value behind who's wearing the C for Canada. And either way, Eric Stahl, he's certainly not hurting in the finance department for what he did in his NHL career. And I mean, I don't think he's got to accomplish much more. Stanley Cup winner, if he wins a nice Olympic gold, regardless of whoever's going to be going, it's a good opportunity for somebody who has contributed a lot with the Maple Leaf on their sweater in their lifetime. So good for Eric Stahl. And yeah, if he gets an NHL contract out of it, why not? Yeah, like you said, it's the Justin Williams, it's the Mike Fisher. You know what? Maybe you can get 30 to 40 good games of legs out of somebody with that age behind their number. But again, we'll see what happens. Again, good for Eric Stahl. I've always liked Eric Stahl as a player. Certainly hope that he does well in representing the country, as I'm sure he plans on doing.
I mean, I can't imagine that there's at least 2 or 3 teams that consider themselves contenders that wouldn't be a little bit better adding a guy like Eric Stahl as the third or even the fourth line center. It just to me seems like a guy. Another one, I don't know if I missed you saying this, but like Jason Demers is another name that I really thought could maybe get a shot out of this. I thought he might have a contract already too. So a guy like that, I think, is a prime candidate. We are going to get to our first guest of the night right away, but one more quick thing we want to just kind of squeeze in here before we get to Zig, is that Jeff Petrie has requested a trade out of the Montreal Canadiens. And on top of that, Carey Price came out in a press conference just recently and said he plans on returning this season, but he just had a setback in his rehab and he wants to be a Canadian. So he wants to be one. Jeff Petrie wants to be out. Max, we've talked about Jeff Petrie in the show in the past as, a solid player, and he definitely is. I mean, he had a great Stanley Cup run. He was integral to the Stanley Cup run as it was. He's had a rough year, and he has a 3-year contract left with $6.5 million. He's mid-30s now. Definitely on the back half of the golf course for sure for him, but he's got to be a guy you think could still contribute in a great way to a team if they can get him for the right price. No?
Yeah, we'll have to see. Obviously, the list becomes more and more finite by the day with teams that are contenders that are up against the cap, what they actually, in terms of needs, are going to want to get. I would say that John Klingberg, Jeff Petrie, like the defenseman market, especially at the top, again, right-handed defenseman, right? We know the rarity that they are. Getting kind of, I don't want to say cluttered at the top of the trade bait boards, but it'll be interesting for Jeff Petrie. Clearly, like you said, 34 years old, just coming off a Stanley Cup run. I don't think he wants to enter even if it's, let's call it a competitive reset for Kent Hughes and Jeff Gorton and the Montreal Canadiens. But with that being said, Jeff Petrie is obviously a guy who's much lauded, but at that $6.25 million number, 3 years left, some would say it's an asset, but also too, what are you going to have to give up to get that kind of talent? And on the other flip side of things, right, we obviously see the increase in what the salary cap's possibly going to look like with another huge loss in revenue. does it really make sense to acquire a $6.5 million 34-year-old defenseman? For a couple of teams, it might. But again, it all depends on the asking price, and you know that Montreal is going to be trying to get maximum value for a guy who has proven to be a very, very good defenseman for them for a number of years.
Yeah, definitely. Matthew Jaworski says, Price, just take the year off, bud. It's been a tough year for you and your team. Take some time and get whole. I kind of tend to agree with that, but hey, I'm not Carey Price, and I don't have the competitive drive that Carey Price has. I'm sure he's just going nuts not playing right now. So I'm not going to tell him what to do or what not to do. Honestly, I'll let him make that decision.
And not to keep Zig waiting much longer, but
yes,
again,
let's bring him in.
To speak to your point, and I'm sure he'll have some thoughts on it as well too, but how much better are the Montreal Canadiens with Carey Price?
Right.
6 wins, 7 wins, 8 wins. I mean, I don't know.
Is it even that much with how many injuries and issues they've had?
That's exactly it, right? So take the year, get healthy, right? A guy in his mid-30s, and like I said, I'm sure Zig has some thoughts on it as well, but yeah. Very interesting dynamic.
Let's bring him in now because we've hyped him up enough. SiriusXM NFL radio host, SiriusXM NHL contributor, Boston Bruins fan, and we'll definitely get into the Boston Bruins. But Zig Fracassi, thank you for joining us once again, my good man. How are you tonight?
Clark, I'm doing well. Max, how are you?
Doing fantastic, Zig. I tell you what, the logos that I'm adorning here, it's a great week to be an LA Rams fan, my friend. It really is.
Yeah, and congratulations to them. I honestly had a few doubts about whether, and I heard you and Clark talk about this about Matthew Stafford, but give him full marks. He played well in the championship game, and, the additions they made, obviously Von Miller to that defense. Aaron Donald was beastly down the stretch, and they exercised a few demons beating San Francisco. So good on them. And now, second straight year, there's a true home team hosting the Super Bowl.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's been a trend up here in Canada. The Grey Cup has had a lot of hosts in the last decade with the home team. And man, it just makes that event so much more fun for the locals that are going to it. And I'm pumped for LA. I mean, not that LA needs more entertainment, but I don't think town is suffering, but overall it's pretty awesome.
It's called Tinsel Town for a reason, fellas.
Exactly. Exactly. But Zig, before we get into some Super Bowl talk, I think, the guy who loves to hijack headlines around Super Bowl time, Tom Brady, he announces his retirement, kind of didn't mean to, and then ended up doing it. Given the fact that I know you're a Bruins fan, but I know you have a connection to the Patriots area as well. And what does this mean for the league that he's now deciding to hang up the cleats? I mean, 7 Super Bowls. Greatest quarterback of all time. I mean, I know there's people who still like to argue that, but it's hard to at this point. What does this mean for the NFL?
Well, it's going to be a period of adjustment. I don't think there's any question about that because he is the greatest quarterback of all time. He's definitely earned that right to be able to do what he wants. And I think, Clark, you may have meant that just a little bit slight and cheek. Because to me, Tom Brady isn't a guy that wanted to hijack the headlines, which is why I think privately word got out about this. And I'm sure he was pissed. I'm sure whoever leaked this, and again, Adam Schefter's a reputable reporter, Jeff Darlington, Ian Rappaport, they are reputable at what they do. So, but having said that, Tom probably did want to wait till Monday or Tuesday, like today, to make the announcement. And you know what? He deserves to go when he wants to go. And you could hear in some of the conversations that he had, even with media. And if you listen to the Let's Go podcast on SiriusXM with Larry Fitzgerald and Jim Gray, he would say, there comes a time now where my wife needs me around a little more, where my kids need me more and more. So, if they had won again, then maybe this would have really been the ideal sunset. But the fact that they came up a little bit short, even though they had a hell of a rally against the Rams to make that interesting, he goes out as the greatest. I mean, you look at the numbers, even past the age of 43, what do you have, like over 90 touchdowns and nearly 12,000 yards combined the last 2 years. And he's 44 years old.
Yeah,
I mean, normally you're going down at that point, right?
Yeah, and just to build on your point there, Zig, I'm pretty sure I saw those same numbers, and that actually leads the NFL Like any quarterback, he leads in those two categories over the last 2 seasons.
He is Benjamin Button. He is. He just ages in reverse, I tell you.
Yeah, exactly. So Zig, let's get your thoughts on this past weekend a little bit deeper here. The Rams obviously squeaked by the 49ers, but like you said, in a good way. Calm down. I'm complimenting them here. But obviously they exercised some demons, so that's obviously a huge thing for them. Big momentum boost, I would think, going into this game. The Bengals, on the other hand, heavy underdogs going into this one. They're going up against the Titan. I say the Titans, not the Tennessee Titans, but the Goliath, that is, and they were the Davids. Yeah, there we go. Probably a better analogy. But either way, the Bengals, that community of Cincinnati. I mean, I've been talking to Mo Egger, who's an ESPN radio host there in Cincinnati, and he said it's just he doesn't even know. People don't know how to react right now. They're going crazy. It's a big thing for the city. So Cincinnati's got all this crazy pent up momentum in their area. LA's got this like kind of destiny team. I'll give it to you, Max. Like they built this team for a purpose, and now they're facing each other in Super Bowl. So how did these two teams get here in your eyes?
Well, I thought that when Cincinnati beat Kansas City the first time earlier in January, I thought that was really the true kind of wake-up call. I'm like, wait a minute now. Here's a team that was down 14 points 3 different times during that game, and when you got number 9 not fazed by the moment, I'm like, you know what? This team could be a real pain in the ass to play once the playoffs roll around. So sure enough, they got in. They beat a decent enough Raiders team, so that was their first playoff win in well over 30 years. I mean, people, you think of the Bengals and it's, mediocre franchise, but I'm old enough to remember when, late 70s, early 80s, they were forced to play with, Ken Anderson, Isaac Curtis, guys like that, Bob Trumpy back in the day. They were a legit franchise built up by Paul Brown. Of course, now his son Mike owns the team. So there's been some heartaches after the Andy Dalton era here the last few years. But then when they got in, I thought they'd beat the Raiders, and they did. Then you go to Nashville, and I think they scored, the first 4 times they had the ball. Again, they weren't overwhelmed by the moment, and they beat the top seed. Then you go into Arrowhead, and sure enough, they're down 21-3. It's like, all right, Cinderella crashed at midnight. Then they get that late touchdown in the half to make it 21-10. And then how the Chiefs inexplicably did not score on a 1st and goal from the 1 may have been the ultimate, ooh, boy, Cincinnati's still in this.
Totally.
Because they tightened down defensively. They held Kansas City basically to 3 points the last 30-plus minutes of the game, and they started to get their confidence. He hits Chase on some key plays. Tyler Boyd was clutch. T. Higgins was clutch. So you could see that this was coming, and that Anarumo defensive scheme where basically they started to, only rush 3 and drop 8 or even 7 and then have the spy on Mahomes. Patrick didn't know what the hell was going on. So you talk about the proverbial in-game adjustment. That was it right there. As this, you always hear the term hang-around factor. Well, once this got into it, I'm like, Cincinnati's here to stay. And to me, there was no doubt that they were going to win that game. So kudos to them. And oh, by the way, Zach Taylor, never been a head coach before. I guess you can get to a Super Bowl now without having head coaching experience, but that brings up another Pandora's box that came out today, too. And then the NFC, the Rams, I heard you guys talking about it. Stafford largely was very good throughout this season, but there was a stretch there. He was starting to look at that Stafford from Detroit, and I was getting a little concerned, and I thought maybe they kind of back in a little bit against the Cardinals in that wild card game, but then Stafford gets that Godzilla off his back. Then they played, I thought, maybe 40 to 43 good minutes against Tampa, but then they almost pissed that away in the 4th quarter. But you give Stafford credit for hitting Kupp on those 2 big plays to set up the game-winning field goal. So they had resilience there. And then they overcame a 10-point deficit against the Niners last week, again showing some spine, some resilience. Aaron Donald had been quiet against the Niners in both games this year, but he forced that play where Jimmy G has to give up the ball to get the game-clinching interception. They made the plays when they needed to, and Stafford to Kupp might be the most electric combo going in the NFL. That's how, gentlemen, both those teams are in the Super Bowl.
I love it, Zig. And I guess from how they got here to now previewing where they're going, what are a couple of the X factors that you're really looking for both sides of the ball, for both teams as they enter the 56th Super Bowl?
Ooh, X factors. Well, for one, now you've got now we got to see how hurt Higbee is.
Yeah.
From the Rams. But
MCL sprain is what I saw earlier on Twitter.
Yeah, so does he heal enough in time for that game? Actually, both teams tight ends now.
Yeah.
Because Uzama is hurt for Cincinnati. So those, whoever has to step up, I thought, what was his name? Kendall, was it Blanton?
Kendall Blanton stepped up and
he was a
hell of a game.
Yeah. So there's one right there, and then whoever has to step up if Uzama can't play. That's another thing that I'm looking for. And then maybe another under the radar. The Rams like to spread the field quite a bit. Cincinnati, you look at their secondary, you won't find a Deion Sanders or Night Train Lane back there. You've got a guy like Hilton, was discarded by Pittsburgh. Von Bell, another free agent that he picked up. Awuzie was a free agent from the Cowboys. Hargraves was a first-round pick of the Texans who didn't work out. The point being is they don't have all pros back there, but as a unit, they play well enough. How they hold up against that prolific Rams attack will be something worth watching. And then the Bengals, obviously, be interesting to see, Hendrickson matching up against the Rams defensive tackle, because Hendrickson's been a beast all year long. So how do they handle him in that pass rush and the adjustments that they'll make? Those are a couple things early on that I'd be looking for.
So, Zig, Sean McVay, Zach Taylor, they're both young coaches. This is nothing but good for the league to have young coaches like this on this stage. Do you think either one has, an advantage, maybe the staff as a whole, but does either coaching staff, in your eyes, have any sort of advantage going into this game?
Maybe McVay over Taylor because he had Zach on his staff, so he might have an idea, say 2nd and 2, 3rd and 1, whatever the case may be. Well, I know we tried this when we were at the Rams. He may try something similar with Joe Burrow. So in that instance, maybe he knows what the tendencies of Zach might be.
And fun fact, Zach Taylor, former CFL backup quarterback, Toronto Argos head coach Ryan Dinwiddie now. So there's a little connection there, CFL connection. I know that Cliff Kingsbury, Arizona coach, was also on that quarterback crew. So what a quarterback crew. 3 head coaches in professional football came out of that quarterback's room that year. Pretty neat little story. Zig, when you look at these rosters now, we kind of talked about the X factors a little bit. Who's going to step up? Who's going to make these big plays? Who do you foresee being, Super Bowl MVP coming out of this?
For the Rams, I'm going to go out on a limb. Cooper Kupp.
That's a pretty short limb there, Zig.
Yes, thank you. Yeah. I threw a big dart into the board here. Hey, listen. I mean, the guy is constantly covered, yet he still gets open. To me, that's something that's just absolutely electric. And you see this kid come out of Eastern Washington. In fact, my esteemed colleague, the great Gil Brandt, who built up the Cowboys way back in the 60s through the 80s, he drafted Cooper's grandfather.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, Jake Kupp, who went on to a very good career in the NFL with the New Orleans Saints. So you always kind of root for guys because of that little sentiment there. And then on the Cincinnati side, that one's going to be kind of interesting to me. I would say if they can run the ball, I think Joe Mixon's going to have a very decided role in this game. Because if they start running that misdirection that they started to do a little bit against Kansas City, that will be big. So those would be sort of my 2 guys that could be MVP-ish.
Do you think, Zig, when you look at these two teams as well, too, right? I mean, you got the, I guess, younger upstart Bengals, right? You got Joe Burrow, who's going to go on to have a fantastic career in the NFL. Essentially, this kind of being the end of a rookie season. Remember, he got hurt, obviously, halfway through last. It's just absolutely impressive what he's been able to do coming back from a pretty gruesome injury. But you look at the other side in the Rams. You look at the window. Obviously, much has been made about the picks, right? Haven't had one since Barack Obama was in office. You look at some of the guys that you got to win one for, to cement Aaron Donald's legacy, to get him a Super Bowl. Andrew Whitworth, the former Bengal, going for his first Super Bowl at the age of 40, being kind of that backside pass protection for Matt Stafford. Do you think there might be a little bit of an edge? We obviously all saw the viral clip of Aaron Donald rallying the defense at an important moment in that Niners game. Do you put any stock into, you know what, we want to win it for these guys because this may be our moment. We might not get back here. Do you think that there's a little bit maybe of an advantage for the Rams having a little bit more of that veteran presence of, we just might want this more?
Yeah, well, I'm not sure they would want it more per se, Max, but I think the point you made out is pretty salient because let's face it, they're built to win now. And I mean, I don't know how well you know Rams history, but again, from the I'm old enough department, when George Allen coached that team, of course, later coached Washington, he didn't like rookies at all. So he traded out every draft pick he could find to get all these guys that, you know, played for him or whatever. So it's kind of ironic the Rams of now are almost built like that vintage where, yeah, you know, let's face it, as good as, you know, Von Miller's been, guy's already been in the league, 11, 12 years. Yeah. Same thing with Aaron Donald. So, yeah, I think there's more of a win one now type of thing because, you know, when you start looking at the cap and other considerations, ultimately Les Snead's going to have some tough decisions that they'll need to make going forward. So from that perspective, Max, I would agree with you. And with the Bengals, although you don't want to get caught into this trap too, because second year in the league, Dan Marino made the Super Bowl. Yeah. He never saw the Super Bowl again unless he went to it. So that's something that you really have to guard against. And I'll be real interested too when he's due. And I know Mike Brown coughed up the money for Carson Palmer back in the day, but you see Mike Brown having to dole out $50 million a year to keep Joe Burrow and the way they run that penny pinching franchise.
Yeah, exactly.
But he's going to have to do it if he wants to stay relevant.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's going to be interesting. It certainly isn't the matchup I don't think a lot of people had on week one of their schedules going into this Super Bowl, but it's got a ton of headlines going into it, right? And I think we go back to the point about the Sean McVay versus Zach Taylor. Obviously, Sean McVay has been here before. He got completely Belichicked back in 2018 and Brady'd, so to speak. But I tell you what, Zig, I am more than pumped up for this Sean McVay's second opportunity. And I'm at the point with Sean McVay, and this may be a little bit biased, obviously just fresh off of another NFC championship. I'm ready to give this guy a 10, 15-year contract at this moment. It's fantastic.
Let him win one first, Max.
That's true.
Go ahead and do that.
It's very, very true.
He's a hell of a coach. Let's not deny that, but still, let's win one first.
Two Super Bowl appearances in 5 years. He's on the right track, I think, for sure. Zig, before we let you go, I got to get your take on the Boston Bruins because, as a Leafs fan myself, I got the Austin Matthews jersey behind me here. They just stomped the Devils.
And I still like you, by the way.
I appreciate that. I was going to say earlier, Zig's a Bruins fan, but we won't hold that against him. But
there you go.
The Maple Leafs, they beat the Devils 7-1 tonight, so I'm pretty pleased with that. But my point with that is that they're holding off the Bruins because the Bruins are storming right now. They're storming in on that Atlantic Division. They're trying to get into that third spot. Do you foresee the Bruins? Well, first off, let's get your take on the season so far. And do you think that they're in a position to really make a splash here at the trade deadline coming up sooner than we think?
Clark, I would say this has been one of these sort of freaky deaky type of years using that terminology because you had to go without Krejci because he was hell bent on going back to the Czech Republic. And you can't blame a guy for wanting to go home and have his kids experience that culture. Yeah. So when they went with this sort of setter by committee approach, I think it brought a few snickers because Hala and Noshik and Foligno were decent guys on other teams, but are any of them the true number two setters? So That's been a little bit of an issue, although Haula had played very well up until coming down with COVID. They had been kind of a middling team. Let's not forget, too, most of this year they've been without Rask, and Swayman, I thought, played well. Allmark now has played very well. I believe they got the win tonight against Seattle. Tough win for them because Seattle was down 2-0, came back to actually tie the game in the third, but then Boston got the late goal. Allmark's been very good. I got to be perfectly honest. As much as I like Tuukka, I thought they should have moved on because they've already moved on from Chara. They've already moved on from Krejci. They've already moved on from Krug. There comes a time, guys, where you're going to have to start letting these guys go because at some point the dreaded R word's coming. Now, whether the R words rebuild, reboot, retool, you can use whatever word you want. So there's been this up and down, but then what basically saved their season was when Cassidy broke up the perfection line, put Smith up there, moved Pasternak down to number 2, and then they tinkered with Haula and moved him with Hall and Krejci, and that line's been very, very good. The defense has been okay. McAvoy, I think, is a top-shelf guy. Grzelcyk is good, but the other guys are kind of component parts. To your point, Clark, about the trade deadline, I know they've been supposedly involved with Chychrun. There's supposedly some involvement in, some other guys. I know Vince Dunn's name started to creep up once again. So they need a top 4 left shot, and then hopefully another name too, JT Miller. But you don't have, unless you're willing to part with either or Jack Studnicka or your number 1 pick as part of any package just to get the other team to say, all right, let's talk. I'm not sure the Bees have enough wherewithal or the capital to get it done. So there's your Bruins synopsis.
Perfect. I love it. Well, Zig, we'll let you go. Appreciate your time as always. We're so pumped that you joined us back on the SquadCast again. It was overdue, but much appreciated. Thank you, Zig.
Thanks
Clark
a ton, Zig.
And Max all the time, my friends. And hey, when's Peterson getting you guys going? It's like he's jetting all over the world here, for goodness sake.
I can't afford his travel schedule, Zig.
Really?
He's all over the map.
I know he is.
Yeah,
he's a good
they're heading to LA on Monday, so they're going to be in LA for.
They're going to be at the Super Bowl. Nice.
Yeah, so we're again just Rod and Darren. They're heading down there. So they're shooting on location for Super Bowl week in LA, and then they're going back to Calgary, Alberta. They're going to be in Calgary for another month. So we'll have to get you on with Rod before too long too, Zig, because I know he's missing you too.
Anytime, guys. Thanks for having me.
All right,
take care, Zig.
Zig Fracassi, SiriusXM NFL and NHL. Love having Zig on. I always learn a ton with Zig because when you get him in, he knows what he's talking about. Love that guy.
Absolutely. Great insights.
Let's hit a break because when we come back from the break, our next guest is going to be joining us, Brady Leavold from Puck Support. Extremely excited to get this guy's story on this show. And we'll see you guys. Max, you hit the commercial break. We'll see you guys in about, 2.5 minutes, Max? 2 minutes?
Close-ish, somewhere around there. We'll see you soon, guys.
Your fans deserve an incredible arena experience. It's time for an upgrade. Stunning graphics. Revenue opportunities are just the beginning with our in-venue display systems and scoring technology. Let us help you find the best solution for your facility. EDG, always delivering the best fan experience.
Everyday hoop life.
Is it time to take your event online? Bring it to IKS Live. We've got a fully customized virtual event platform with remote guest support for your next fundraiser, talk show, conference, performance, and more. IKS Live offers live streaming to Facebook Live and YouTube and pre-recorded capabilities, both in our studio with green screen available and on location with pre-production and post-production services. IKS Live, the proud producer of The Rod Peterson Show and The Recovery Hour. Visit us at ikslive.ca.
All right, and we are back. Now, Max, you know, it's nice because tonight is our 68th episode. It's the Jaromir Jagr episode, Max. And what was Jaromir Jagr known for in his early days? That gorgeous mullet. And our next guest, not necessarily, he's got the flow going, but I might say he's got the Jaromir Jagr mullet of handlebar mustaches. Let's bring on Brady Leavold. Brady, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thanks for having me. Can you hear me all right?
Yeah, you Absolutely. Sound perfect. Crystal
awesome.
clear.
I apologize. I'm actually I'm at my girlfriend's place. We live in the middle of the bush here, and the service isn't the greatest, and feeling a little under the weather, but I'm certainly glad to be here and a huge fan of your guys' show.
Absolutely. Well, Brady, thank you so much for joining us. The connection seems fine right now, so hopefully it holds out. But let's get right to it. Obviously, Brady, your story is one that I've heard, and extremely honestly honored to have heard it. I love the story. It's such a powerful story, and I know it's helped a lot of people. And I hope tonight that we can maybe, tell it again and hear your side of things. And for those who don't know, Brady, I guess I'll let you introduce yourself a little bit, but WHL star, went to NHL camp, and then obviously life happened, and I'll let you tell your side of the story there. But now on the other side of all of it, puck support, you're big in the mental health game, and there's so much good going on with you now. So I'm excited to hear it. But maybe, Brady, let's start from the start. Tell us about your path, if you don't mind.
Yeah, instantaneously fell in love with hockey like most other Canadian kids, and I'm originally from the West Coast, Port Coquitlam, and my dad took me to games very early on, Vancouver Canucks games, and I was actually had the chance to be at the very first game that Pavel Bure ever played at, and that was it. That was it for me, and I just fell in love with the speed of the game. Right in around that time, though, my parents got divorced, and shortly after that, I was actually sexually abused. And so that did a couple things. I always tell people, and it took me a long time to get to the place where I can talk about it openly, right? And that did a couple things for me. It obviously was just so, it tormented me right away, and for the number of years after, it haunted me, and I found comfort and solace in hockey, having a stick in my hand, whether it's playing a game on the ice or a street hockey game, or if I'm watching Hockey Night in Canada and there's a commercial on, I got a ball in a golf or stick in a golf ball, going crazy, waiting for the game to come back on. And as much as I loved it, it was a medicine for me, right? And because I threw myself into it, I was able to develop a certain ability. And some people could say some people have natural ability or what. There's a lot of hours that go into anybody that's good at anything, and hockey is certainly no exception. And so I put the time in because I liked the way that it made me feel. I didn't have to think about being abused, and I didn't have to think about my mom leaving. I didn't have to think about anything. I just had to think about hockey. And so that worked for a while. There was looking back on it, guys, I think anybody it's plain as day, could see there was something going on with my anger and everything right from an early age. But I wasn't talking to him about it. And the reason why, I made a real conscious decision. People always ask, well, why didn't you talk about it? Why didn't you do this? There's a couple of reasons. And the one that always sticks out for me is that for whatever reason, my group of friends, we were kind of advanced in language, and like we were a little ahead of our times, let's just say, doing things and stuff that maybe we shouldn't have been doing. And like even very early on in the schoolyard and stuff, just hearing homophobic slurs or language and watching people get picked on for things that aren't even necessarily true. And then like their whole life at school is ruined. So, I started to hear these different slanderous words and how people are getting pinned. I was like, wow, yeah, no one's ever going to find out that ever happened to me, because I can see where that's going to go. And so I just held it in. And, again, hockey was my outlet. It was a little bit longer route to get to the Western Hockey League for me. I actually quit the under-16s, fake sick after the first day, because I was severely mentally ill. I had no confidence, and I'd look back and I would have made that team for sure, but I was scared of fear of failure, right? And so I quit. And everybody on that team went on to get drafted to the Western Hockey League, and guys that essentially I knew I was better than and could compete with. And luckily, I made a decision the following year, guys, at 17 to go to the under-17s. I got invited, and I just made a decision. I said, whatever happens, I'm just going to lay it all out there, and at least I could say I did it, and now I don't have that question mark. And by doing that, I was able to get listed by Swift Current, make the top 40, almost made Team Pacific. It was last cut from Team Pacific as an undrafted guy, and made the Broncos as a 16-year-old. And played in one game and got an assist, but I wasn't doing all right at all. I was now away from home, and all these things were starting to compound, and the first thoughts of suicide, and now looking to outside sources other than hockey for comfort, things like alcohol. And in the culture of hockey, I think it's safe to say even today, I think in our society, alcohol is pretty widely accepted. And as I started to see older guys that maybe I was playing with or was training with, and they're drinking, I'm looking up to them, they got NHL contracts or whatever. It seems okay, right? But I didn't realize how much I was actually becoming dependent on things to make me feel better, and I certainly wasn't talking about it. And so I ended up leaving the team that year and went back and played junior B and came back as a 17-year-old. And I'll try to fast forward the story a little bit, but things were really not good as a 17-year-old. Sure, I got Rookie of the Year of the Broncos that year. On the outside, everything looked good, but a lot of people wouldn't know that I left for 2 weeks on what would now be recognized as a mental health leave of absence. And when I did that and I came back from the team, again, I didn't tell anybody on my team what was really going on, or the coaches or whatever. So it was kind of open season on me, right? Like now the guys are going, well, this guy's a quitter. He's this, he's that. Started to get picked on, hazed. I remember being like in the shower and just like 4 or 5 jugs of bleach being dumped on me and just like horrible stuff. And so now it's like, I'm like, well, I guess I started to resent hockey. I didn't want to go to the rink anymore. And I'm supposed to be living out my dream. And kind of fast forward the story, I ended up getting the Broncos Rookie of the Year, and Dean Chenault, who was so good to me there, and he's with the Leafs now. Remember on my exit meeting, you guys, he's like, next year you're gonna be 18. He's like, NHL teams have been calling about you. They kind of see that there's some stuff going on with you, but we're gonna get you right, and you're gonna be on the first line. We'll get you on the power play, PK. Like, we get you a letter if you come to camp with like all the stuff. He's like, you're gonna have every opportunity to play like first line minutes with whatever. They traded for my childhood best friend at the beginning of the year, my line mate, and Ned Lukasovic, and we're really trying to make things work for me. And played 7 games, and after 7 games, I only had 1 goal. And I was not into it at all. Prior to that season, after leaving and hearing that news, you would think that would encourage somebody to go and train and really, get ready for next season because, you got this opportunity. I didn't. I was drunk on the Broncos awards banquet along with the majority of our team and everyone else. And I just remember accepting that award and thinking like, hey, I'm on top of the world right now. I got this. Don't worry about it. I went home that summer. I went to I graduated high school. I went to a Merritt Mountain Music Festival, and it's sort of like, I think you guys have like Craven or something in Saskatchewan, it's the same thing, right? And so I went to there, and again, big party, tons of hockey players, tons of my friends from high school, tons of people that I like cared about and look up to and everything, and we're just having a good time. It's the first time I really saw like hard drugs, right? And I'm starting to see like guys again that have played in the NHL and played in these leagues that I'm there with and looking up to, and they're like, hey, and I'm like, I had a barrier though, right? Like I was never going to do that. I wasn't prepared for that. I definitely didn't think that. I was so naive to think that addiction and stuff just would never happen in the sport of hockey, because it happens everywhere. Doctors' offices, fire halls, police stations, hockey dressing rooms, mental illness and addiction riddles all those areas. Hockey is no exception. I don't know why I thought it would be, but I wasn't prepared for it. And, I stood my ground initially for the first few days, right? they were asking me, hey, you want to do it? And I'm like, no. And as the days went on, the music festival, they were having it looked like they were having a ton of fun, right? Like it did, like it looked like fun. And here these guys are successful, like they can handle it. Like I can handle it. I couldn't handle it. And I made that decision and I did it. And did it every day for the rest of the summer leading up to go to Swift Current. And that brought me into my 18-year-old year. And then I was just a complete mess when I got there and ended up packing up my truck and driving home, unbeknownst to anybody on my team. Or I drove to the rink. Dean didn't even know. I already had my truck packed. And I went and said, Dean, I said, I don't know what's going on with me, but I can't be here. I'm sorry. I'm not good for the team. I'm going to kill myself if I stay here. I need to get out of here. And I drove from Swift Current all the way back to Port Coquitlam straight, like 14 hours. And they traded me to Everett, and that was one of my requests. I'll play for the Giants or for the Silver Tips, so I can be closer to home. And I don't know how much time we have, guys. If you want me to fast forward into some of the other stuff, let me know. But I got traded. I didn't report because in the meantime, I signed with the Burnaby Express, now Coquitlam Express, BC Hockey. I was playing online with Kyle Turris. I got like 9 points in my first 3 games. Was living at home, but now I started to bring that party drug atmosphere into my time with the Burnaby Express, and that was the first time that a team really intervened with my drug use. They tried, but I wasn't having any of it. They went on to win the national championship. Well, I got kicked off the team for being a drug addict, and I ended up getting kicked out of my house. Right, my dad's now a retired firefighter. He's a scout for the Saskatoon Blades. He had this son with this promise, his best friend, and all of a sudden all this stuff's happening right in front of his eyes. He doesn't even know what to do, and left with no choice. I got kicked out of the house at 18, and during that summer, I was able to make contact with Dean Chanel. God bless his heart. And because my rights went back to Swift Current, and he made it very clear that I probably wasn't going to make the team. Didn't matter what I did, but he could probably find somewhere for me to play. I just got to come to camp. Well, he made it really hard for me, but I did all right that year. Didn't matter what I did. I was on the fourth line for like the first, 20, 25 games. I could get 3 points and fight the toughest guy on the other team, and it wouldn't matter. And I just had to put my head down and keep working until finally, things started to click. But off the ice, again, I was using the alcohol and everything else. No drugs in Swift Current. Wasn't something that I was openly going to search for in Swift Current, a small little town at that point in time in my life. Had some other issues happen off the ice. If people listen to my show, you can hear all about it. I'm just trying to fast forward. I was eventually traded to Kelowna. Now I went into Kelowna with the attitude of like, I'm not playing hockey next year. I don't care. Like, I'm going to go to Justice Institute, use my scholarship money, and be a fireman just like my dad. So I went into Kelowna with no expectation. I didn't care if I got a tip-in goal that Tyson Berry shot from the point, and I tipped it in. I didn't get credit for it. I didn't care. I just shut my mouth. He's better than me. He's got a conduct. Jamie Benn probably honestly had like 7 or 8 of my points that year, but I didn't say anything. Whereas before I was so critical of that, but I was just enjoying playing hockey. I had the most successful year of my life. And, it was like a point a game that year in the dub and 150 penalty minutes or something like that. And with all of a sudden now NHL teams are calling and you would think that, hey, now I'm on my way, right? Maybe now it's time to figure it out. And that just pushed me even further. And so that was the summer that I really started to abuse cocaine a lot. And leading up to Tampa's prospect camp, Stamkos just drafted, all that stuff. And all of a sudden now I'm in this prospects camp. I hadn't skated since like March or April or whatever it was. It's now July. And I know I'm kind of in over my head with where I'm at mentally and physically. And, during that time there, I ran into a guy that Clark may remember, Mitch Fadden, played for the Lethbridge Hurricanes in Seattle and Tri-City, and one of the best hockey players I ever played with or against, period, based on pure skill and playmaking ability. We grew up playing against each other. I ran into him that night in the lobby elevator because I was pacing around the night before camp started, like so anxious because I knew that I'd made a mistake, right? And I ran into him, and he was kind of in the same frame of mind. He had actually gone to a party in Victoria that night. And we ended up staying up all night, partying, just not partying, I shouldn't even say partying, more like just talking and sharing and everything else. And then the next day we ended up starting the game on the line with Steve Stamkos. Barry Melrose comes in, we hadn't slept, and it's like, starting at center, Leavold, Fadden, and Stamkos, and we're like looking at each other like, oh man, we screwed up, right? Anyways, me and him, and the reason why I bring this up is because Mitch Fadden passed away in 2017 of an overdose, and after that we went to Norfolk together for a short time and lived together, and we were like brothers, right? And we struggled together, we fought, we laughed, we partied, we did it all. And Yeah, and so I just want to share that. And when he passed away in 2017, and I didn't find out until 2020, because after that, my time in Norfolk, I got a knee injury. I'll kind of fast forward. Next thing you know, I'm prescribed Oxycontin, and again, totally was not prepared for that. I had no idea what painkillers entailed. I didn't know just how bad a physical withdrawal could be and how physically addicting a pill can be. And of course, I thought that I'm stronger than any of those other weak people that it could happen to. Don't worry about it. I got it. And, I also didn't know that, sure, I had a knee injury and my knee hurts and I need some painkillers. Sure. Great, doc. Thanks. I take that painkiller, knee pain's going away. But now it's like, whoa, my emotional pain is gone too. Like, these aren't just physical painkillers. These are better for emotional pain. And I knew right away that I was in trouble. I was in big trouble. I didn't realize, again, how much trouble because of the physical withdrawal. I just knew that when I took that pill, in that moment, nothing else mattered. Like I'm talking like 5-6-year-old Brady playing hockey, full of like just nothing. My mom come and give me a big hug at 5 years old after she left. Like somebody coming in the room and stopping what happened to me at 5 years old. Like that's what that feels like, when I did that. And before I knew it, I was hooked, physically addicted, and that wasn't a very good feeling. That was the first time I felt really alone. I was really ashamed and kind of understood what was going on and kind of understood that, hey, like if this gets out, like I've already got such a bad past in hockey and here we go. And like, I need to figure this out on my own. And that was the worst mentality that I had, right? I did it for way too long. It was just like, I got this, like, I'll figure it out. And I never could figure it out. I was hiding and lying. And then, things get worse until finally I'm not playing hockey anymore. And, my dad dragged me into the doctor's office and never forget it and said, like, what the hell? Like, we came back to my family doctor and was like, what the hell are these pills? Like, what's wrong with my son? Like, I'm 22 years old. And the doctor's like, yeah, this is ridiculous. Like the amount that you're getting and the amount you're taking, like we got to wean you off or whatever. My dad was like, cut him right off. And I don't blame my dad. The doctor was like, yeah, I already shown enough signs for him to cut my own family doctor to cut me off already because I was making excuses for this and that and everything else. And so he did. My dad, thinking that would be the solution to the problem, cut off the pills. That just pushed me to street drugs, right? And now all of a sudden I'm hanging out with people who are using like the hardest of the hard drugs. And I'm like, but I'm just trying to get my pills so that I can feel normal and go about my day. Till finally it just eats you up. You're doing it too much, and now all of a sudden you're chasing those pills around everywhere. And it doesn't matter you got kids or a job or hockey or whatever. They're number one priority, and eventually everything just kind of falls out from under you when you're in that situation. That's what happened to me, and I was kind of. For people that don't know, like Oxycontin that I'm talking about, the pills I started with, it's a synthetic heroin is what it is. It's a morphine, it's a Percocet, high dose Percocet, fentanyl, all kind of same drugs. And so again, at this time I thought, hey, I'm just doing these pills that come from the doctor. Even though I'm getting them off the street now, they're still coming from a doctor. So I'm different than you. I'm different than you that's doing the heroin or whatever else. And, I'll never do that. Until, the guy that I was getting all these pills from, every time I went to go see him, he was using heroin. And I'd just be like, no, ask me all the time. I'm like, not a chance, man. Like, get that out of here. Until finally I didn't have any pills and I was so physically sick. And he's like, here, just try this. And I did. And I went from doing like 10 to 15, 80 milligram oxys a day. And after that moment, trying that for the first time, I did 2 pills. To this day in my life, I'm almost 2 years clean. But from that day in 2009 or whatever, I did 2 pills after that because I switched to heroin, right? And it became, my life became so much worse so quickly, just based on the desperation of being an addict. I was just trying to self-medicate. From the time I was, 22 to 25, I was in multiple detoxes, like 12 detox centers at different times, 6-7 rehab centers, psych wards. I tried to kill myself, was in there for like almost a year, 6 months, and then 3 months. And family didn't know what to do with me. I wasn't talking about what was going on. And of course I lost my hockey career. That should have happened a long time before it did. Let's be honest. I had 9 lives, and I say that, and there's a lot of people in and around that time, and probably even still, that are pointing the finger and judging and saying, like, what the hell's wrong with that guy? Like, how could he blow this opportunity? Like, what a loser, this or that. And I think to a guy like Evander Kane, right? Like, I hated Evander Kane, full disclosure. I played against him in Western League. One of the guys that I hated more than anybody, just his attitude and everything. But on the other side of that, sure, he's done some stuff that's wrong. We don't really know what the truth is, but so many people have been, at least in the past, quick to kind of judge him, crucify him. Let's not even ask a question of why. Who cares why somebody may be acting out or have these issues? Let's just throw it all at him and let's not support him. And that's sort of what happened to me on a much smaller scale, of course, than Evander. And there wasn't a whole lot of people asking questions. And I don't think people really knew how to ask the questions, certainly back then. And so I struggled immensely until finally I found myself homeless on the downtown east side of Vancouver. I was homeless down there for a year. And while I was down there, that's where I got introduced to real desperation. That is a whole nother world that I knew existed, but I would lock my door and drive through there. And if you have a minute, give me a nod if you got a minute, like that I can tell a pretty crazy story.
You have the floor, Brady.
Some people may have heard this story,
absolutely.
But when I was 18, after I got kicked out of my house, it was the summer, I just called Dean and said, hey, I'm going to come back. I was living with my buddy Anthony, and we were in Port Coquitlam, and we thought it would be a good idea at 18 years old. Let's go drive down to Canada Place, downtown Vancouver. Let's go check it out or whatever. Let's go cruise, the 18-year-old mentality. I had a little Ford Ranger. I had my Swift Current Broncos bag in the back. And on the way back, I said, and then I was driving, so I said, let's go to Hastings and let's check out the carnage down here. Let's go check out the prostitutes and the drug addicts and everything else. And I was like, my mentality at 18 was like, I want to see, like, because essentially I'm trying to get almost entertainment off this at 18 years old. And so I turned down this alley, which was an alley that I later almost died in, But at 18, I turned into this alley because we're going to go check out all this stuff. And right away I got pulled over. Like, right away I got pulled over, and this cop comes through the window and he's like, what are you guys looking for, drugs or a date? And at that time in my life, I was just like, what? Like, I didn't really understand the dynamic of what it was down there and how it worked and all that stuff. So I was really, like, kind of confused, and I kind of perked up and got cocky, 18-year-old, like, no, sir, like, we're just down here. We're just checking stuff out. We're from Port Coquitlam. I play in the Western Hockey League. My hockey bag's in the back of the truck. Like, that, he didn't say a word to me. And he took his flashlight because it was dark, and he shone it in the back of the truck, and he saw my hockey gear, and then he came back and he leaned, like, right into the window, like right in my eyes like this. He's like, you think because you're an effing hockey player you're above any of this stuff down here? He goes, you come down here, you stay down here. We have a former pro hockey player down here right now that's missing his arm because he became an intravenous drug user. He's like, if you think you're above any of this, boy, are you wrong. And I looked at him and I was like, that'll never be me. Never be me. Like, so cocky, so full of myself, like, sure, cop, like, get out of here. Not me. And you fast forward 8 years or whatever, and it was me. And I almost lost my arm a number of times too, from infections, from intravenous drug use and everything else. And so that desperation turned into obviously having to, when you're in addiction, you have to maintain that addiction. And I had a very expensive addiction, and it took me a while to get there. But now you start to commit crimes to sustain your addiction. You get to a point where you're homeless and, like, nothing else matters. Like, I didn't care if I died. And I remember overdosing and people using Narcan on me multiple times. I come to and I'm pissed. I actually would physically assault some people for Narcan because I didn't want to live. And that was, like, more than one occasion. It wasn't like I was out there intentionally, but I knew that it was a very possibility. It was like playing Russian roulette every day with fentanyl from, like, 2013 to 2020, essentially, right? And it was tough. I just wanted to give up. I didn't feel like there was any hope. Finally, I was arrested, and I spent 2 years in jail. And I would like to say that while I was in there, that I got a lot of help and things got better. And no. I'm so fortunate, you guys. This may sound crazy, but to have that experience that I had, I did 2 years in BC. I came to Ontario. My addiction followed me out here, and I ended up in jail out here for a year. And I'll tell you, it may not be for everybody, but the experience that I garnered through playing hockey, through homelessness, through all the psych wards and detoxes and rehabs and government assistance, welfare, you name it, I've done it.
And I see what there is, and I see what there isn't. And I see how there's so many good people in the world that just never had a chance or are not given that leg up when they need it. I can't tell you how many guys I saw while I was incarcerated come through those doors. It was like a weekly, they're just in and out. It was like a revolving door. I'm in there for 2 years because I got some serious charges, and I see these same people just coming in and out. And I just, now that I'm in the position that I'm in, and I'll get to that, I'm just like stopping and being like, what can we actually do as a society to stop this cycle of addiction? Like, what, there's certain people that need to be incarcerated. There's no question about it. 90% of the people that I was in there with, it all stemmed from addiction and mental illness. And there's just not a solution here in Canada or the States or anywhere. And I don't think there is one solution. But I think we can all be doing more. And so, I'm very fortunate for those experiences that I had and that I made it out alive. Just before COVID hit, I was about 3 months out of jail, 3-4 months. I met a new girl while I was in there. It's a crazy story for another day. We now have a kid together. She's in the other room. But she basically met me and was like, I'm going to help you get out of there and everything else. And I wasn't really for it, but it happened. And for a little bit, we struggled, because she was an addiction too. Till finally she got pregnant. And for anybody that knows my story, really, I mean, this was a big moment because I made so many poor choices. I lost my kids. I made some poor choices surrounding kids, all of that. And she got pregnant. I just was like, no, I can't keep doing this. We can't keep doing this. And the Swift Current Broncos, God bless the Swift Current Broncos. They sent me a pair of skates. They sent me a brand new pair of Bauer APXs with the extended white tongues that I used to have. And they sent them to me, and I was living in Muskoka, not where I'm in now, the same spot, but at her parents' house who live on a lake. And I was able to skate down her driveway, parents' driveway. It's like a 2-minute skate of ice driveway right down to the lake after not being on skates for 9 years. I didn't have a stick, which would have totally gone against everything that I believed in prior to that, because I hate skating without a stick, but I did it. And, I came up, and Taylor, my girlfriend, was like, I've never seen you smile like that, and I knew that I had to do something with hockey. I just didn't know how. I knew that it was going to be an uphill battle for me after everything that I'd gone through. And, there's some prominent NHL players that, I essentially burned or tried to burn that were my friends and stuff through my addiction too, right? So, I knew, everybody knew. I didn't really have a choice, though. It was like, you can either do this and try to get your life back together, or you can sit here, feel sorry for yourself, play the victim, or you can stand up and be a man and address the things that you never been able to address in your life. And that was huge for me. And so that kind of, by doing that, getting some help for that and starting to share with people, that kind of gave me some confidence, and I built some connections. And then I just decided, against my dad's advice, which was normally the case, but this was the one time it worked out. I said, I'm going to start a podcast. And he's like, I think you should maybe just write your book first or something. Because he didn't know, right? I'd moved to Ontario. I just got out of jail. All this stuff had already happened. When I was sentenced to jail in BC, it was front page news of the Vancouver Sun in the province of Vancouver. It was everybody knew, right? And he was just a little worried and skeptical, but I didn't have anything. I had a pair of shoes from jail and a borrowed computer. And I sat in Taylor's mom's car in her front seat, and I did that first episode, which was super rough. The audio quality is so bad. I didn't have any
start
plan.
Somewhere.
Yeah, and I didn't have any plan. I didn't have a single guest lined up. I didn't have anything. And I just got on there, and it was quick, 20 minutes. And I didn't even have a Facebook account with any of my old friends or anything. Nothing. Made this new Facebook account, and this algorithm's really creepy. All of a sudden, everyone that I may know is a hockey player or someone related to hockey. So I just maxed out as many people as I could add every single day and just spam my podcast to them for the first couple months until finally it caught on. And I had some former teammates come on. I know Clark knows Jesse Paradise from Team Issue. They wore the same hat that you're always wearing. And,
I got the hat downstairs.
He was my second guest, actually. And, they sponsored the show right off the hop, which kind of gave it some credibility. And before you know it, I got Sheldon Kennedy and Theo Fleury and Doug Gilmore and my idol, Darren McCarty, who's now become a big brother to me. I text him almost every day. And just things started to happen, and I started to gain some accountability. And now all of a sudden people are looking to me because I came out. I'm 2 weeks clean. I'm doing this in 3 weeks. And people are looking at me. I got no teeth at the time.
Yeah.
At the time, I had no teeth because I couldn't even afford to get these fixed. Like, people actually rallied in the community and paid for my teeth after I was like a year clean and everything else. That's the beautiful part of the hockey community. And tragically, the guy who orchestrated it all just recently took his own life. Rob McDougall, he was a very prominent artist in the hockey world. You guys would know him from some of the Rock'em Sock'em covers back in the day and that. And he was the one. He coached John Tavares lacrosse his whole life. And he found me and brought me down. And that's kind of how that happened. But I mean, people were looking at me like, this guy's a lunatic for sure. There were some people. But as time went on, I started to get so many messages from people who I just knew were in the same situation. And I couldn't believe it. And then when I found out Mitch passed away, I knew I needed to do something. I knew at that moment that I wasn't the only hockey player doing fentanyl, right? First one was actually Matthew Lazinski, and then it was Mitch Fadden. And like, they both passed away 2 weeks apart in 2017. And I knew, I was like, okay, well, if there's one more person other than me, like, then there's maybe probably even more. And then so I dug in and I started to research and suicides and overdoses in hockey. And I found out that my coach for my first year pro, and I don't know if it's backwards, it might be backwards, Quentin Van
it's good.
Horlick.
Yeah, that shows up.
First time I ever went to rehab, I walked in, he was the first person I ever saw. He was my assistant coach the year before in the East Coast Hockey League. And he passed away in 2015, overdose. Like, so many. And I just couldn't believe it. And I just wanted to make a difference and do something. So that's kind of where Puck Support came in. I'll try to fast forward, guys. You haven't even got a word in. Welcome to the
no worries at all, Brady.
Totally
Thank you for sharing.
But you know, I wanted to do something. And initially it was like, hey, we got to get a charity together. We got to actually come up with a solution. This can't be just, let's talk about it, whatever. Because I'm not going to sit here and slander any one organization or anything. There's some people and organizations that do a lot of great work, but nobody's doing, it seems like, at least my side of it, there's a lot of high paid executives in all these places and nobody really knows where the money's going. And even when they have partnerships with certain leagues, let's just say, when I do the research and I ask the players, what supports are they giving you? They're like, I didn't even know we had that. Like, you know, and everything's underfunded, under-resourced already here in Canada for people. It's a long wait list. I've done it. I've had to be on it where it's detox or whatever. Oh yeah, we get a spot for you in 6 months. Well, what good is that? Like, you know, and so I thought, what a unique opportunity to use hockey as the vehicle to try to bring these two worlds together. And I can't even tell you guys how many messages I get every single day. I don't have a huge following, but I don't have people following me that are just following me because they're trying to, like, you know, whatever, see me. I don't want to say anything, but do hockey tricks or anything like that. These are people that want to legitimately connect with somebody. And the majority of my, say on Instagram, 2,500 followers or 30, almost 3,000 followers, like, they're all like sometimes messaging me like all the day. My inbox is just filled with people telling me their life stories. And I feel very privileged to be in the position. I'll get these messages, or I'll even have a conversation with someone that I met on the street. And then by the end of it, they're like, I have no idea why I just told you that. I've never told that to anybody in my entire life. I've heard this, like, I'm not even kidding, like 50 plus times in the last 2 years. And it's not because I feel like it's me that's doing anything. It's just that I'm talking about it. And I think anybody that's openly talking about it is going to get that same response, because it's, you know, maybe as a hockey player, maybe you get a little bit more or whatever, but anywhere you go, we don't have to look too far. 1 in 6 boys will be sexually abused, 1 in 3 girls, and 1 in 4 people in Canada will have a mental illness or addiction. How far do you have to look to find somebody that you love or care about that has had a hard time or is having a hard time right now? Don't have to look very far. So that was the idea. But of course, I had no money to start a charity. I didn't do anything. Doug Gilmore's brother actually raised some money on his 70th birthday for us. He rode his bike 50 kilometers and ran 20 kilometers at 70 years old with his son. I couldn't even believe it. Killer's brother raised like just under $2,000 or whatever. He's like, here, you can do whatever you want with this. This is for Puck Support. Like, we didn't have our NPO or anything like that. And I was like, well, I wasn't about to ask people for money at this time. This was like a year and a half ago. It's pretty tacky for an ex-junkie to be asking people for money and stuff. I'm still very cautious about it, but I'm getting better because I know where I'm at today and everything else. But at the time, you know, I was like, almost didn't even want to take it, but I didn't know what to do, and thought, okay, well, how can I get the word out? Not just Puck Support, but how can I, like, actually provide some hope and awareness? That's got to be the start. That's not the end goal here, but this is where I can start. And so I bought myself with that money a heat press and some stock and a vinyl cutter, and I learned very quickly how to make clothing, and that's what I did. And it's gone for the amount of time that I put into like marketing it, which is pretty much zero other than me wearing it and posting on Instagram or whatever. I built the website. I produced my own everything self-taught on YouTube. Anything you see from me is self-taught on YouTube. Anything Puck Support, anything me, I've done it all. Hopefully that's going to change here in the near future. It is, but and I've kind of hacked it together. And I think a real important thing, I know you guys might want to wrap this up, that we do with the clothing line, guys. And I'm not sure if you're aware of this or not. I showed you earlier, but every single hat or hoodie is going to have a name of one of those hockey players. And if you go to PuckSupport.com, I'm not even trying to plug it right now, but if you just go to PuckSupport.com and take a look at the picture of how many hockey players, and that most recently updated picture, for example, like in my hoodie underneath here, Matthew Lazinski, he was the first story I heard. He was an 87, just like me, second rounder to the Sioux Greyhounds, played there for parts of 2 seasons and got prescribed painkillers in his 18-year-old or 17-year-old year. Going into 18-year-old season, he ran up a drug debt right before training camp and went and was panicking. It wasn't even very much money, but as a kid, you're freaking out. And he went and tried to rob this store, because he was like, if you go play hockey, you're gonna do this. And he ended up getting picked up. He got charged. He felt that a $300 drug debt was worth doing that because he was so scared, and it ruined his entire life. And he never got away from the jail and the addict life. And it's very sad. So it's a way that we can keep their memory alive. And people ask for requests and stuff on names. We don't do it unless it's a family member. And it's tragic to say, but I'm very proud to say that there's several of the families that are supporting Puck Support, right from Bob Probert's family down to Matthew Lazinski, Daniel Miner, Mitch Fenn, like so Todd Ewan, a lot of them, and they wear it. And it's been tough to have these conversations, and sometimes I feel guilty that I'm still alive, because in many cases, some of these hockey players, they weren't living quite the extreme life that I was living. They weren't looking for the way out off this planet maybe that I was. And, I hold that very close to me. And that's a big reason why I get out of bed every single day, is because I have some of these parents like Tom and Michelle Miner, who lost their son, Daniel, who's a former Barrie Colt of a fentanyl overdose this past spring, 2021. They put off his celebration of life until August, and I was able to go down there, and there was like 40 people out of the 150 people, all wearing Puck Support, all with Daniel Miner, all pulling me aside saying, hey, I never even met him. I never even got to meet him. Now his parents, both of them separately, text me every single morning without fail. They came to a hotel, took time off work for the first time in 10 years to come hang out for a couple of days, ask questions and do that. And that's where I'm at today. And I speak with hockey teams on Zoom. This is sort of a way that I've been able to make a little bit of money too, which I thought was tacky at first, but I'm now to the point where when I was in addiction, I was like, is the day over yet? I got nothing else to do. I'm just whatever. I don't even care. And now there's just not enough time in the day. I got my hands in so many things. And so, if a team said, hey, Brady, we wanted you to talk to us, but we have no budget, I don't turn them down. I do none of this. Nothing I do is motivated by money, but it's starting to sort of kind of pay off for me now a little bit. And that feels pretty good to know that I can utilize some of the horrible things that I've done myself and been through to enrich the lives of others, and also now my own. And so I think it's been probably the coolest thing that I've done in the last couple of years, has been able to talk with these players on Zoom, and never once have I done one where I haven't had multiple players reach out after a coach or whatever. It's not for all of them. We're not going to get through to all of them, but sometimes it's just one person, right? And so now I've developed these relationships and these connections in hockey that I never would have thought ever possible, period. And I owe it all to the game of hockey. I really do. Without the game of hockey, I am not sitting here today. There's no way that I'm alive. There's no way that I have the know-how or the drive to even make it through that addiction if I didn't have that, wasn't pushed and knew how to compete and fight and all that stuff, because I just had to keep doing it even when I didn't want to, and it felt like I'd given up. I knew in me that something good could come from this, and here we are. February, it's going to be 2 years. So never thought I could get here, and I just appreciate you guys. I'm sorry for hijacking your show. That's sort of
not at all.
When I come around.
No need to apologize.
I'm applauding. That's amazing, Brady. I have so many things that I want to Oh my gosh. Okay. So this is fantastic. Obviously, Robin.
I'm just grabbing a cell phone charger, Clark.
Oh, yeah, no worries. Robin Wildy, our friend from Prince Albert, has put the Puck Support website in our comments. So if you're watching on Facebook or if you're checking in anywhere, you can see, just go check it out. It's pretty simple, PuckSupport.com. Okay, Max, I'm sure you have a couple things you want to just squeeze in here before we have to let Brady go. But
sorry, guys.
No, don't worry about it. We lucky for us, we kind of have an open platform, Brady. We're not on TV or anything, so we're good. Okay, so I guess the first thing that kept coming to my mind was there like a person or a couple people that were really influential in you making it that change? I know you mentioned your girlfriend. Obviously, the pregnancy was a big motivating factor for you. Was there somebody maybe before that even that kind of started turning the gears in your head?
You know, like interestingly enough, and this will surprise the hell out of you probably, a guy by the name of Adam Braidwood, who I'm sure you remember. You know, has had his fair share of struggles and people misunderstand him and had some pretty other horrible stuff that's just kind of a fluke happened when he was trying to get his life back together. Well, him and I were roommates together in rehab, and Adam Braidwood, former first overall pick to the CFL, for people that don't know, played for the Eskimos. And anyways, they put us together, the two pro athletes in rehab. And that was the first time that I really was actually scared of somebody. And while I was in there back in 2012, that's when we met. He was the one that made me push me to go back and play hockey. That's if you look at my elite prospects, I went down to the Central League there for a brief period of time. I didn't play for a year and a half, and I walked right out of rehab. My dad picked me up out of rehab after 8 weeks and drove me to the airport after not even skating or anything. And I went and played in the Central League because of Adam. And, you know, there was times too when, you know, I was incarcerated and I got a letter from him, couple letters, like just reminding me like, hey, when you're in there, like these people aren't your friends, like, you know, keep your head up, do your thing, like whatever. But, you know, if you can get sucked into a whole nother life while you're in there. He was always the one that kind of guided me. And he was one of my first guests on my show too, but him and I had talked prior, and I had kind of seen what he was doing. You know, he'd done a TED Talk and different things, and started to share his story. And I talked to him, and he was a big inspiration for me. And of course, guys like Theo and Sheldon as well have been instrumental in me getting here. And also Todd Holt, probably. Todd I'm closer to Todd than I am Theo and Sheldon, who I talked to as well, but Todd as well. And those guys just been unbelievable to me. And I still have to pinch myself sometimes. I just feel like, I always tell people this, that I feel like I'm on the longest episode of Punk'd ever that is no longer hosted by Ashton Kutcher, and some poor man version of Ashton Kutcher is gonna pop out and be like, you just got punked, and I'm gonna wake up and I'm be in a jail cell and be homeless, or I'm gonna be using drugs again. And just, you know, still waiting. So here I am, and I'm just trying to make a difference. And if the whole goal here was to try to make a difference in one person's life, and it's now switched to that on a daily basis. What can I do today to lift at least one person up or be there for somebody? And to me, that is the real solution. We can keep looking to governments and different things, and sure, do they need to do more? You're damn right they do. But collectively as people, that's where the solution lies. Community, lifting people up, being there for people instead of kicking them when you can already see that they're down. And, you know, there may be appropriate times when you have to distance yourself from somebody because of their actions or whatever. But to get to that point, it does take a while. Like there is a time where we can all kind of intervene. And again, it comes down to that individual. We can't force anybody to make a change. But I'll tell you, it certainly makes it a lot easier for that individual when they're being supported, not kicked down repeatedly. So
there you go, Max. I'm gonna let you have a say here.
For sure. And you know what, Brady, first of all, before we get into anything, I want to get into a bit of a lighter side of hockey. Obviously, like you said, you've kind of rediscovered a little bit of, I guess, a different kind of love, obviously, in your post-playing career for it. And I want to get into that. But first of all, I just want to say thank you. Thank you so much for coming on our program and sharing your story. And don't ever apologize to us for taking whatever amount of time, whatever it is. we can only appreciate it and learn from it. And again, just thank you very much, genuinely from the bottom of my heart. Perspective, admiration, those are a couple of things that I'm feeling right now. And I don't know if you're a Batman fan or not, but
huge Batman fan.
One of the things that came to my mind as you were telling your story was the quote from The Dark Knight saying that the night is darkest just before the dawn. And obviously you've gone through a very, very tumultuous time, a lot of dark nights, but you've created a hell of a lot of dawn for yourself, man. And I just hope that continues. And I think I speak for Clark and myself when I say that, you know what, puck support, whatever you choose to take on your life, I hope you continue to attack it with the same mentality that brought you out of your dark. But ultimately, like I said, thank you very much, man. I appreciate it.
No, thank you.
And secondly, getting into it about the hockey side of things, and I guess maybe a little bit about the game today. As you said, you went to Canucks games as a kid. Pavel Bure was your guy. Are you still a massive Canucks fan? Is this kind of, like you said, that post-playing career kind of, you have
people
diehard?
Ask, yeah, sorry to cut you off. People ask me this all the time. Like, it's probably the most asked question that I get is like who my favorite team is, or I don't really have one. Like, I'm more. So people have to understand, and this is kind of a common theme for people that they lose their hockey careers either prematurely or whatever. They're not everyone, but a lot of guys, at least myself and the ones I've talked to, go through a period of time of resentment towards hockey. Right. They can't even watch it. And so, right, like I remember being incarcerated and everyone watching the game on the rain, like, and I'm watching it and it's like Jamie Benn's on TV and I was on his line in Kelowna and I was in Vancouver sitting with his parents when he scored his first goal, you know, and now like and I couldn't even watch it until, a couple of years ago, and until I finally understood why, and I have to own my part in it. Probably wouldn't have worked out for me anyways. But instead of, again, playing the victim and trying to blame hockey or anything else, I started to appreciate my life experience. I didn't get to play in the NHL or do that. Maybe I wanted to at one time in my life. I don't think I ever really did. I think I was just good at hockey and that's what I knew how to do. I don't think it was ever something got to a point that was like, this is what drives my crank. I love it. I love to be on the rink by myself or with a couple buddies, chuck and saw, whatever, doing. That's my paradise. But as far as a game goes, like, I know I'm not a very big guy. I know I'm going to go in there, probably have to fight some guy that's going to, probably hit me pretty hard tonight. And what does that look like? And all of that. It wasn't something that I enjoyed thoroughly. And so I was able to now kind of reflect back and think like, okay, I have this experience and what can I do to use it to make my life better? But I don't have a favorite team. I just have favorite players. And the reason why that whole backstory is because I'm now at a point in my life where I just have so much respect, admiration for the guys that I played with, against, who are playing or whatever. It's not like I'm watching going, oh, I beat that guy up. I had more points than the guy, because it used to be. Used to be. But now it's like, okay, I can put myself in a position. What did it take for that guy to get where he is? And how was he able to do it? Maybe he had a better, didn't have trauma or whatever, but that wasn't the hand that I was dealt. And now I'm here and I can't keep looking in the past and blaming other people or even blaming myself. Like, it's just time to pick up and move forward. And the people that want to support me, great. And those that don't, I guess, see you later. But at the end of the day, I'm going this way and I'm sick of being stuck down here and on my way out of hell. My whole goal is to just be a good person and to make this world a better place. I'm not motivated by money. I could care less about money, unfortunately for me. But, I don't know. I feel really good these days. I know that I wake up every single day and I don't have to worry about, what I did yesterday, right? Sure, there's still some things in the past that haunt me, and I'm sure maybe some of them will. But there's nothing new that's coming up that I'm going to have to address or anything else with people or situations that I'm creating and drama and my addiction and all of that. And I'm on the other side of it now and it feels pretty damn good. And I'm telling you, if I can do it, if I can get out of that life, I'm telling you, anybody can. I'm not special. I don't have anything more in me than the next person. Sometimes it just takes trying and falling down and just picking yourself back up until you find something that clicks. And I've finally done that. And I tell people all the time, I wouldn't trade what I'm doing now for Jamie Benn's $76 million contract. I wouldn't.
I wouldn't.
Exactly.
I simply wouldn't.
Yeah. Brady, you talk about, kind of finding the joy in hockey again a little bit. And am I not mistaken, you dressed for a game recently?
Yeah, so I'm actually back playing. I didn't even skate for like almost 10 years. And I've probably been on the ice maybe 30 times in the last 2 years for 15 minutes here and there. But yeah, my best friend actually, his name's Matt Thompson. I always talk about him because he was best friends with Matthew Lazinski, who's in my hoodie. Again, I didn't know Matthew Lazinski and I didn't know Matt Thompson. But after I spammed, like I told you, my podcast, Matt was one of those guys. And he called me and was like, and I talk to Matt like 3-4 times a day now. He owns the senior team, like all this stuff. And now that I know him, and you're like, if I'm getting married tomorrow, he's standing next to me. This is a guy that I met 2 years ago, right? But now that I know him, he's not ever the type of guy that would pick up the phone and call somebody from hearing a podcast or whatever. He found my number. He called me. He's like, is this the guy from the podcast? Like, I just listened to your first one. Sounds like I'm listening to my best friend. My best friend passed away in 2017. Like, he played for the Sioux Greyhounds, all this stuff. And that's how I found out about it. Anyways, him and I became, we're best friends. Like I said, he owns a senior team out here in Ontario. And he's like, you got to get you back playing. And like, it's the real deal. Like, trainer, skate sharpener, gator, just like you're playing in the dub. They're paying me to come play and a little bit of money. You guys know how it is, senior hockey.
Yeah, sticks and gas.
Man, I'm so slow and out of shape. So I'm like barely even skated or whatever because I live far away from him, like 5 hours. So I'm not practicing. I'm only coming in periodically, and I'm not doing much at least last year to get ready. And so COVID obviously canceled the season, and then this year prior to being shut down out here in Ontario, I did get into a few games. The first game I actually got jumped in warm up by some guy that I've never seen it before. It was like right at a slap shot. I'm not even kidding you guys. It was wild. Man. And this guy was like a boxer, MMA. They brought him in just to strictly be a fighter, and I ended up breaking his nose and everything else. And he actually messaged me after and apologized because he didn't know. He came on our side of the red line. I was like on our blue line, and he just came flying over and just dropped his glove. I'm like, what the hell's going on right now? And he messaged me. He was laughed. He's like, you broke my nose. I'm really sorry. And like, even him, he broke down and told me he's struggling with addiction, right? And he's stuck on this. And it's like, holy. And now it makes, some stuff makes sense. The next game, so I got kicked out, didn't even get to play, even though I was defending myself. Like, I drove all that way, didn't even get to play. They gave me a game credit for it too on Elite Prospects. I hated. Otherwise, I'd have 3 points in 3 games. But anyways, I play in Cornwall, and we're playing in Cornwall, and didn't go very well. Like, whatever, nothing terrible happened. But the next game, I had some guy tell me to go like overdose. He's like, yeah, you effing junkie, go overdose and die, this and that, blah, blah, blah. And I kind of like snapped. I should have not, but I did. I kind of got upset and whatever. And I got like a 10-minute misconduct, and he got like a gross misconduct for saying it. And there's only like 9 minutes to go in the period. So we both got sent to the dressing room, and we'll just leave it at that we exchanged words and other things. After him and I chatted, I came to find out he came into a room. He was crying, this guy, after we just fought in the dressing room. And it's not funny that he was crying, because he told me that 3 weeks prior to, his brother intentionally overdosed and died. And so now, again, it makes sense why he was, maybe he was looking at me going, hey, my brother couldn't get out of it, but you can, so I'm going to take it out on you or whatever. And now me and that guy talk, and next time I'm up there, we're going to go for lunch and everything else. And like, that's the world I live in now today. And until finally the next game I was able to, or no, the first game that I actually played, I got an assist, which was kind of cool. And then in the next game thereafter, I got kicked out after that, fighting in the hallway and everything else. So I only played like 1 period or something like that, like 2 shifts, and got suspended for like 3 games for it. And he got suspended for like 14. And I wrote a thing to the league saying, hey, this is what happened. Don't take hockey away from him. So they kind of reduced it and all that. But the next game I scored, and it was a pretty big moment. Like, even though it's senior hockey, I scored, and there's a video of it. And like, it was, it was a big moment, because like, I torched my family name, and like, sure, I'd already rebuilt my life a little bit back up into that point. But for me to put the puck in the back of the net just one more time, I could care less if I ever play again. But I went back and I scored a goal. And like, there's guys on the other team that I played against in the American League, and like good players in this league that have been playing this whole time. And I'm visibly slow,
but I can still get it done. And everyone in the league is now scared of me. I have 68 penalty minutes in 3 games. Well, 4 it says, and 3 points. And I've kind of garnered this reputation in the league now. So I've kind of made this decision that I don't even want to put myself in that situation. I didn't enjoy it. I didn't enjoy the way that made me feel, having to fight that guy in warm up. Didn't like the way that that made me feel in the tunnel. Like, caused a lot of problems, right? Like, there's a lot on the line now. And I did it. May go back and play a couple games, who knows? But as it stands right now, I'm officially retired and really enjoying just being on the ice with the kids now and that kind of stuff. And it's I never thought I'd get there either. I was always the guy that was like, I'm coaching, but I can't stop stick handling, working on my own stuff type deal. I was that guy. Now I'm like, yeah, I still go off on tangents. I've full disclosure, but much better.
That's fantastic. I love to hear it. Well, Brady, the comments, tonight alone have been proof that your story matters, and I'm so glad that you came on to share it with us. Like Max wrote a poem for you, but I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to say thank you so much for coming on here tonight. And I think the more you tell your story, the more it's going to help more people. So please keep doing it. Keep that grind going. Keep the heat press going. Keep going, man.
Hopefully here very shortly that'll be the thing of a past, other than just putting the names in the clothing, because looks like the Source for Sports and some other stores want to carry it, and awesome. Some things are heading in that direction too. So it's pretty exciting, and I'm just super grateful. If anybody does, like listen to me talk or this kind of topics, this is what we talk about on my podcast, Hockey to Hell and Back. And, we get big names. I also bring on people that are essentially like me, forgotten about, that have a story, that are now doing better. And those are some of my favorite episodes. So, I do live shows just like this one. Typically I'd be doing one right now, but I fell under the weather, and I actually have committed to you guys anyways. And I'm switching to the daytime now. So, it's all audio platforms and YouTube and Facebook, Hockey to Hell and Back. Guys, thank you so much. Keep up the good work. And Clark, we'll be chatting here soon. Max, thanks. It was nice to meet you, man.
Very nice to meet you as well, Brady. Thanks for battling through tonight, being under the weather and such. Once again, performed out.
I have to ask last thing. Sorry, I never stopped talking.
For sure.
That's why guys hated me on the ice too, because I never
stopped.
Worries. Did you guys bring me on? You have a Tom Brady retirement show, and I got his. Like, my name is his last name. I was just wondering. It's like the double Brady show. I know we finished with me, like the better Brady of the two. So just want to say thank you for leaving the best for last here. Cause unbelievable. Tom Brady fan, huge Tom Brady fan for so many reasons. You guys already know. I don't think he's coming back. I hope he doesn't come back. I think he should go enjoy his life and do it. He's given enough to the game. I think absolutely it'd be cool to see him come back, but what more can you do, man? Like, come on, Go. Yeah, absolutely. Enjoy.
We were lucky enough to get the Brady. We got the Brady Leavold retirement announcement on our show tonight. You retired from senior hockey. There we go.
Exactly. Breaking news.
We got the better Tom Brady
retirement. Too funny. Anyways, guys, you guys are awesome. I appreciate you so much. Everyone watching, thank you so much for the comments. And if anyone's struggling out there, please don't give up on yourself or your loved ones. There is hope. There is hope. Even when it feels like there isn't, there is. So don't give up. And I always tell everybody to have a great day if you so choose. So I'll say that to you guys as well.
Appreciate it, Brady.
Thanks a ton, Brady. Have a great night. Hope to chat soon. Take care.
All right.
Bye, guys. Thank you.
There we go. Wow.
What an incredible story, man. Perseverance. Like, there's not really a lot of words to describe that. And again, I have not been in that man's shoes. Like, that is, again, it just provides an entirely new dose of perspective and admiration for somebody that can not only go through it, but to come out on the other side and be doing something that just is needed. It's not a want, it's a need anymore in society today, totally to have the support system in place. And I think you, again, not to dissect the talk too much, it's not an analytical discussion. It's more so
let's go back. Let's break down each sentence. But I'm just looking at the clock too, Max. I'm like, wow, like that was that long. Like that flew by for me. I don't know. I'm assuming it did for you as well. But like, geez, that was unbelievable.
I feel bad that he even felt the need to apologize, because again, people know that we can definitely have our fair share of awards when we want them, and as our life stories have unfolded, I think I can speak for us both when I say that we haven't had to deal with that type of adversity, right? We've dealt with adversity, but certainly not that type and that magnitude, maybe. And that has just, I'm honestly still speechless. I'm still kind of reverberating. And what it does is it really makes me want to try to find a way to help in any sort of instance. But with that being said, I mean, the dude seems to have it covered, man. Obviously, there's an
He's a grinder.
He's a grinder. Exactly. That's got to be his next hoodie. Be a grinder, right?
Yep.
Like
Be a
just
grinder.
grind through any which way you can. And man, oh man, what an incredible story. What an incredible person. I certainly wish all the best for him and his future endeavors. Puck support, mental health awareness. It's not a want, it's a need. Make sure you guys go check out Puck Support, everything Brady's got going on. He's got a fan in me. Absolutely.
Yep.
Great
Absolutely.
get, Clark. Great get.
Robin says that was amazing. Just listening to his story, how he powered through it and turned it into a positive, shows the internal strength. That's it. Like, yeah. So, I mean, we had some other stuff we were going to talk about, Max, but I honestly don't even think it matters at this point. That was the more important thing tonight. And I think, you know what, we can wrap it up there. Quick shout out to Janelle, because Janelle popped over on my TikTok and dropped a bunch of roses and stuff over there. So thank you, Janelle. You're insane. But overall, great night. I mean, Zig. And then on top of that, we got to chat with Brady and hear his story. So
yeah, great sports analysis and great real life analysis. It's all you can ask for in the Yammer Yager episode of the SquadCast.
Yes, exactly. So Max, let's
Phil Forsberg, by the way. I know we'll cut it, but like the mustache, that's the Phil right there. I mean, in today's age, he's definitely on the leaderboard with Phil Forsberg.
He had the handlebars all the way down to the chin, but he cut her down just to have the kind of mustache. But he did have the whole all the way down before. him
and oh my goodness, what is the gentleman's name on TikTok? My goodness, I don't know how I'm blanking on this.
You know, hockey.
Yeah, him and old time hockey need to have a side by side at this moment. I think there's some serious exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
But as
I would
Brady,
love to go to old time hockey's cabin and just walk around. That place looks majestic.
Right? That guy has found true happiness. You just know he has.
Oh yeah.
That's how you define it for at least that person anyways. And so if it's hockey, if it's movies, if it's whatever your passion is, I guess the moral of the story, pursue it to your nth degree. And I'd like to have him back on to find out even a little bit more of the journey, because when he said he was a YouTube learner, that really struck a chord with me.
I know. I saw your eyes light up. I saw you when he said he got the heat press. I'm like, I looked over and you were like, oh,
yeah, exactly. Because that's, again, if anybody knows my story, they know that the heat, it didn't come to the heat press. I invested my funds a little bit differently because I didn't want to do that, but and not to say anything ignorantly about it either. It was more so just the fact of the way I decided to do the screen printing versus heat press. Something I certainly wish I would have learned, but.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, the YouTube learning on the graphic design and setting up a clothing company, his obviously has a lot more of a admirable initiative behind it. But at the same time, though, I was like, okay, there's a little bit of crossover, a little bit of overlap with the paths that we've had, just in a bit of a different way. So no, that was an incredible guest, Clark. And I don't know, man, that's right up there for me for favorite episodes in terms of impactful stories being told and people who are really, truly serving a purpose beyond themselves in this world. Right. And I think that's ultimately the world needs a lot more of that. And that's all I can say about it is great get, my friend. That was awesome.
Well, we can definitely put Brady on the please return list. And I'm sure he would definitely do that with us because like he said, you know, he's got a lot of stuff going on and it's only going to grow. So super pumped. Anyways, Max, we could talk about Brady probably for the rest of the night, but we will, let's shut her down, I should say, and call it a night. So Max, thanks for hanging out.
Thank you very much. Good, sir.
We'll do it again probably next week, I would assume.
Likely. Same time next Tuesday.
Yeah, we forgot to mention this earlier.
Yes.
We were going to mention this off the top of the show. Now it's an hour and 45 minutes later, but we are doing a show on Friday night for the NHL All-Star Skills Game. We were going to talk about the NHL
It's called the
All-Star
skills
game
competition. Before. It's not a game.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah. It's not a game. We were going to talk
You
about that at the top of the show, but we got other stuff going on. Tom Brady retired and stuff. So
Tom Brady and Brady Leavold.
Both Bradys.
It's you know what it is? I don't know what it is about Tuesdays and retirements, because Pekka Rinne retired on a Tuesday as well. I don't know. As much fun as SquadCast Tuesdays are, it usually means a meaningful retirement is taking place.
Yeah, usually, right?
Yeah.
So we'll call it a night, and thank you everybody for tuning in. But we will be live again on Friday on the Hockey Podcast Network for the NHL All-Star Skills
Competition.
And there's some exciting stuff going on. I'm actually really curious.
I listened to a podcast today on, I think it was 32 Thoughts with the chief content officer for the NHL, and some of the stuff that they have planned. It all looks really good. I know some concept art is out there on Twitter. It's shaping up to be a fun one. I really like how they're going to really integrate the local Vegas feel and vibe into it. It should be a lot of fun to kind of broadcast and give our opinions and thoughts on as we go.
The Blackjack 21 wall and the
on the fountain of the Bellagio.
Yeah,
there's something going on in the Bellagio fountain. That's crazy. They're shutting the strip down.
Remember in St. Louis a couple of years ago, they did that thing where they shot from the stands at targets. Mm-hmm. That's what the Bellagio fountain thing is. They're shooting at targets. The targets are out in the fountain, and they have to hit little, platforms and stuff and get points that way. So the fountain's going to be going off. It's going to be a spectacle. They're driving out on boats to their platforms that they shoot from. Like it's going to be something. It's going to be something else. And then on top of that, you got the fastest skater, hardest shot. The classic ones. But I'm
all the things to make us feel just absolutely awful as hockey players.
Yeah, we're not this good. We're nowhere near this talent.
Never will be, never have been.
Thank you to everybody for tuning in tonight. Obviously a powerful episode. We want to thank our sponsors, IKS Media, of course, Hoop Life Basketball, RBI Baseball. And I did have this, but I didn't think it was necessarily appropriate tonight. But Original 16, Great Western Brewery, I'm sure they understand. But shout out to those guys because they are a great sponsor of ours and partner as well. So that's it for tonight. Thank you for tuning into the SquadCast. Appreciate you guys. If you want to hit that subscribe, hit that like, hit that follow, whatever platform you're on, we appreciate that. And we will see you guys next Tuesday right back here on the channels. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.